Watergate House in June. A walled garden of astonishing variety. Verdant. Bright. Filled with birdsong. Suddenly the garden has filled out and got taller. Shrubs have taken over from the tulip garden of April. Wisteria, Deutzia, and Cornus. They introduce a more muted palette of white, lilac, and magenta against the lush new green of the foliage. Then comes an explosion of colour, taking us into summer, with the roses, peonies, and delphiniums. Now that the spring garden is over, the pergola takes over as the focal point.
There are at least 78 different kinds of roses here at Watergate, and behind me on the pergola you can see some of the ones that enjoy a south-facing aspect, like Blairii No. 2, not very romantically named, and Phyllis Bide, also a bit of an odd one. We wonder who Phyllis actually was. I'm very interested in single roses too, so we've got another not very romantic sounding but very beautiful rose called Keith Morn over at the end of the pergola. And of course the wonderful Cooper's Burmese, which is a white single rose, which I've got flowering over a white wisteria.
Appropriately for Watergate, the main garden is designed to draw the gaze towards the river.
Where I'm standing in the spring garden, you can see that all the bulbs have now gone over. But behind me there's a display of the white rose rambling rector, and on my other side masquerade going across the medieval arches onto the river. And when you're standing looking at the pergola from the house or from the main terrace, your eye looks to the pergola and then through, so that you have a sense of a vista towards the river.
The west garden is transformed. Although some key plants from the spring have taken a back seat, they continue to provide important structure. Their leaves acting as a foil to plants that are in flower now.
We're standing in the west garden now, and the focus has changed completely, because when we were here before in the spring, all the attention was at low level really. Naturalised bulbs springing up through the grass, quite a lot of blue and white. Now much of the emphasis is on the walls, where the roses have begun to bloom, and I think you'll see that they're really quite covered in roses. There are plenty more things to come, delphiniums, there's some peonies in the border behind me, but it's the roses that really dominate here.
But for all its visual beauty, the garden is really a multi-sensory experience.
One of the real treats of being in the garden at this time of year, particularly when you come down the pergola behind me, are the great wafts and waves of perfume, rose perfume, that follow you along the path. Absolutely beautiful. And there's a particularly good example here, which is Rosa Isfahan, which may well have come from Persia once upon a time, but smells very sweetly in Kent.
Many of the roses will flower again later in the summer, set off by daylilies and salvias. But in June, Watergate is a garden of roses.